Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Committee of Public Property and Public Works. Our public hearing will begin. There will be a hold on a few bills. Bill numbers 190602 is going to be held, and 190560 will also be held. 1910602, I'm the sponsor of that bill. That'll be at the call of the chair to our next public property meeting, as we are working with Parks and Rec and Administration to ensure that our public is safe at all times in all our public facilities when it comes to sudden cardiac arrest and the safety of our citizens. Before we leave, I do want to recognize a quorum is present. To my left, Councilwoman Gim, Councilman Greenlee, Council President Clark, and we are joined also in our body here by Councilwoman Marie Quinona Sanchez. Clerk, would you please read the title of Bill number 190130?
Bill number 190130, authorizing the Parks and Recreation Commissioner and the Procurement Commissioner to enter into a concession agreement with Loveluck LLC for the design, construction, management, and operation of a food and beverage concession in the Fairmount Park Welcome Center and John F. Kennedy Plaza, aka Love Park, all under certain terms and conditions.
Good morning.
Morning.
State your name for the record,
sir.
Please, and you may proceed with your testimony.
Sure. My name is Catherine Ott-Lovell. I'm the Commissioner of Philadelphia Parks and Recreation. Good morning, Chairman Heenan, Vice Chairman Greenlee, and committee members. My name is Catherine Ott-Lovell. I'm the Commissioner for Philadelphia Parks and Recreation. I'm pleased to appear before you today on behalf of the department in support of City Council Bill number 190130. The bill authorizes the City of Philadelphia, through the Department of Parks and Recreation, to enter into a concession agreement with Loveluck LLC for the design, construction, management, and operation of a food and beverage concession in the Welcome Center in Love Park. Parks and Recreation is very pleased to be working with the selected concessionaires, Valerie Safran and Marcy Turney, owners of Barbuzzo, Bud Maryland's, Little Nana's, and other very popular restaurants and retail operations in the Midtown section of Center City. Safran and Turney have often been described in the media as one of the primary contributors to the economic development of Midtown Philadelphia. Over the past several months, it has been gratifying to see the high level of activity and use of the newly revitalized Love Park. The multi-million-dollar restoration of the Welcome Center, due to be completed in early November, is the second phase of the revitalization of the park. The third and final phase is Safran's and Turney's investment of approximately $1.5 million to turn the Welcome Center and the immediately surrounding park-level terrace into a beautiful and exciting new restaurant called Loveluck. Safran and Turney's plans call for a full-service restaurant and bar in the Welcome Center interior and balcony, with a more limited seasonal menu and bar on the terrace below. The Parks and Recreation and Art Commission approved designs will create a 1960s vibe consistent with the Welcome Center's heritage. We believe that Loveluck will take Love Park to the next level as a popular destination for residents and tourists. Loveluck was selected as a concessionaire through an RFI and RFP process that began in 2017 and culminated with the award of the concession in June of 2018. Parks and Recreation received several RFI proposals, and several qualified restaurant operators attended the RFP pre-proposal meeting in February of 2018. However, Safran and Turney submitted the sole proposal in May of 2018. Loveluck and Parks and Recreation signed a concession agreement in March of 2019, with an initial term of 1 year and up to 3 annual renewals. The initial term converts to a 10-year term upon enactment of this ordinance. The concession agreement also provides for up to 2 5-year renewals at the city's sole discretion. Loveluck has agreed to pay a guaranteed annual fee ranging from $60,000 in the first 12 months after opening to $102,000 in year 20, plus an additional 1% of gross revenue. Based on Loveluck's 10-year projections, the combined amounts result in a concession fee of $82,000 in the first year to $121,000 in year 10. That concession fee will be used to maintain and provide free programming in Love Park. Loveluck executed an economic opportunity plan that requires a best and good faith effort to achieve MBE and WBE participation ranges from 5 to 10% for project design and 10 to 15% for construction, maintenance, and operation of the restaurant. The EOP also includes workforce diversity goals. Loveluck itself is a certified WBE registered with the city's Office of Economic Opportunity. I appear before you today to offer Parks and Recreation's full support for Bill number 190130 and respectfully ask that the committee move it forward for City Council approval. Thank you to the bill's sponsor, Council President Clark, for his ongoing support of this project. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony, Commissioner. Also would like to recognize for the record, we are joined by committee members, Councilman Squilla and Councilman O. Anyone on the committee would wish to have any comments or questions for Bill number 190130? Anyone here today also joining us wish to testify on Bill number 190130? That being said, thank you for your testimony. We appreciate your comments. The chair will now ask the clerk to read the title of Bill number 190712.
Bill number 190712, authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to convey to the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development all or a portion of a parcel or parcels of land in and about the area bounded by Lombard Street, South Broad Street, South Street, and 15th Street for further conveyance under certain terms and conditions.
Clerk, Chair recognizes Councilman Green.
After she speaks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome.
Thank you.
Please identify yourself and you may proceed with your
Sure.
testimony.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Heenan and other members of the Committee on Public Property and Public Works. My name is Dominique Casimir, and I am the Deputy Commissioner of Real Estate for the Department of Public Property. I am here today to testify in support of Bill number 190712, an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to convey to the Philadelphia Authority of Industrial Development, also known as PAID, a portion of all or parcels of land located in and about the area bounded by Lombard Street, South Broad Street, South Street, and 15th Street, and all under certain terms and conditions. Conveyance of the property to PAID shall be conditioned upon a commitment by PAID to require an economic opportunity plan in accordance with Section 17-1602 of the Philadelphia Code upon further conveyance. The city conducted a competitive process to convey this parcel of land. Upon completion of this competitive process, the committee has recommended conveyance to the Goldenberg Group, Harvey and Robert Spear, and the Badger Group, LLC. The Department of Public Property supports this measure, and accordingly, I respectfully ask that the City Council approve Bill number 190712. I am requesting a suspension of all rules to allow for the first reading at the next session of Council. Thank you, and I will be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes Councilman Green. Lee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question here. Obviously, this is the old health center, correct?
Correct.
What are the plan? Do you know what the plan is once it's conveyed? What's going to be there?
Yes. The conveyance of the property, the health center will be restored and will be used in partnership with the University of the Arts.
Okay.
They look to have a retail and performance art facility there, so it will be open to the public. Adjacent to where the lot is currently open for parking, there will be a development that will cater to the University of the Arts for the students there.
So it'll be connected with the University of Arts? Okay.
Correct.
No. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Could you let everybody know that, the services, all right, that were there now are still going to be put to, good use in making sure that they're a better provider for our communities as a public entity?
Sure, absolutely. So the health department has been relocated. The administrative services has been relocated so that they can all be together at 1101 Market Street. The actual health center where services were provided has been relocated to 1930 South Broad Street, the Constitution Health Center, where it's co-located with other medical uses and facilities. And there's ample parking and transportation access there as well. The lab is the last remaining piece, which will also eventually go over to that location as well.
All right, and I just wanted to make sure that, publicly, people understand that there is a fair amount of planning and collaboration when it comes to utilizing and making sure that our public services are accessible and that their coordinated efforts are in the best and most efficient way possibly as we reallocate spaces.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chairman Heenan.
Okay. Anyone else on the committee wish to speak on Bill number 190712? Anyone here today wishes to testify on Bill number 190712? That being none, thank you so much for your testimony. Clerk, would you please read the title of Bill number 190707?
Bill number 190707, authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to acquire fee simple title or a lesser real estate interest to all or a portion of a parcel or parcels of land, together with the improvements thereon, in and about the area bounded by West Cumberland Street, North 8th Street, West York Street, and North 9th Street under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chairman Heenan and other members of the Committee on Public Property and Public Works. My name is Dominique Casimir, and I am the Deputy Commissioner of Real Estate for the Department of Public Property. I am here today to testify in support of Bill number 190707, an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to acquire a fee simple title to all or a portion of parcels of land located in about the area bounded by West Cumberland Street, North 8th Street, West York Street, and North 9th Street under all certain terms and conditions. The city will use the facility for a community service center. The site encompasses all needs and accommodations for the use. The Department of Public Property supports this measure, and accordingly, I respectfully ask that the City Council approve Bill number 190707. I am requesting a suspension of all rules so as to follow the first reading at the next session of council. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for your testimony. Anyone on the committee wish to speak on Bill number 190707? Anyone else here wish to testify on Bill number 190707? That being none, Clerk, would you please read the title of Bill number 190714?
Bill number 190714, authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into a lease agreement with the Robert Nicoletti Family Trust for use by the city of all or a portion of the premises located at 1813 through 25 Hilton Street under certain terms and conditions.
Good
Thank you.
morning, Chairman Heenan and members of the Committee of Public Property and Public Works. My name is Dominique Casimir, and I am the Deputy Commissioner of Real Estate for the Department of Public Property. I am here today to testify in support of Bill number 190714, an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the City of Philadelphia to enter into a lease agreement with the Robert Nicoletti Family Trust for use by the city of the premises located at 1813-25 East Hilton Street under certain terms and conditions. The Health Department will use this location for vector control, food protection, and storage for these units. The city recommends the property at 1813-25 East Hilton Street. The lease for the property will commence no later than December 1st, 2019 for a 10-year term under certain terms and conditions. The Department of Public Property supports this measure, and accordingly, I respectfully ask that the City Council approve Bill number 190714. I am requesting a suspension of all the rules so as to allow for the first reading at the next session of council. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Well, thank you so much for your testimony, and just a little personal point of privilege. I am excited for this lease to go through and this bill to proceed through the process of City Council, freeing up much needed space that Vector co-locates and shares with the Animal Control Team here in the City of Philadelphia. The Animal Control Care Team has been restricted for the amount of space so they can take care of the animals here in the City of Philadelphia. They've had, I think, unsafe work conditions, both physically and mentally, for not just the employees, but the volunteers and people who who are trying to care for our dogs and make sure that we have and animals, that we have a safe place to do so. This is the first step of freeing up space. And I, as a former board member of ACT, as you well know, it's been one of my frustrating arguments that I've been trying to make with the city for many years now. Vector has to be relocated, and this paves the path of doing so. So we have a new board member on there, Councilman Dom, who is going to carry the banter on trying to make sure that we have good work conditions and conditions for animal control team to do their job. This will free up space to have, happy dogs going out for adoption, sad dogs being treated in an efficient way. We've made a lot of new moves with the board before I had left by expanding the board so they can reform the animal code, brought back the defunct Animal Advisory Committee. We have renewed interest, I think, on a lot of the activists and volunteers that are, finally, they should be excited about Vector relocating and having the space of their own and having the conditions of their own. So, now it's time to move forward, right? Rebuild and fix the current conditions of ACT in this upcoming year. All right, so we can be proud of what we have here as a city, as a first-class city, making sure that all our animals are being cared for with the utmost integrity and responsibility. So
I just want to say, Chairman Heenan, I have to personally thank you because since I've started, this has been a personal project of yours, and you have pushed for it since day one. You have been a strong advocate, and you've made sure that public property had the resources in order for us to move in an expedited manner. This facility is absolutely amazing for Vector to move. It's actually perfect. It actually promotes and stimulates an area or a corridor that has been left vacant. So it's a great fit for everyone, and I want to say thank you personally because you've really have been championing this since day one.
And I appreciate that. We deserve better outcomes, and this is the first step of ensuring that the outcomes are in the pipeline, in the way. Construction is going to be starting. Redesign is in place, and the new adoption center will finally have a shovel in the ground, and people, we can continue to fight for more funding. And I don't do it alone. I'm sitting here with Councilman Squilla, who's been a staunch advocate and supporter of animal control, as well as Councilman Dom. So together, I think, as a body, we're going to do the responsible thing and moving forward. So I'm excited about today, and thank you for not, giving up and looking for a space that's located. And by the way, the location of this lease where we're on Hilton Street here, all right, is in a space where it could use a lot more activity, could use more lighting, it could use a lot more of security precautions. It's right in the middle of the opioid epidemic that we have in our city of Philadelphia. So you're not only providing other spaces, you're transforming a space that will be in the best of the public interest. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You actually addressed my question. I wanted to check to see if this was going to free up that area for ACT. It obviously is, and I just want to recognize your advocacy for the years on this very important issue. As also a dog lover, I was glad to see that this is issue going in the right direction. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for your advocacy for ACT and also for the movement of Vector into this new location. Is health also going to a new location moving from the ACT location to here or somewhere else?
So Vector falls under health, so it will be Vector, and a portion of food services will be relocating to that area.
A portion of food services.
So at this time, the whole entire building will be dedicated to city use. which is absolutely amazing. It will be turnkey and fit out for our use, specifically designed. They're investing in the landscaping of the area, putting up additional lighting, rebuilding the building out completely to our fit out and specs. So it's really a great deal. It's a 10-year term. We have 2 5-year options. We locked in at an absolutely great rate, and we have additional tenant improvement dollars, which allows us to truly do a service to the health department in building out their facilities correctly.
Well, thank you, and I also want to really applaud public property for finding the location for be able to relocate Vector and the health department to this new spot to hopefully they'll open up the door to creating a better atmosphere for ACT and the expansion of ACT in the current property that they're in. So thank you so much and great
It's
job.
always a pleasure working with you, Councilman Squilla.
Thank you, Councilman. Any further questions on Bill number 190714 from the committee? Anyone else here wish to testify on Bill number 190714? That being none, thank you for your testimony. Clerk, would you please read the title of Bill number 190606?
Bill number 190606, amending Title 16 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Public Property by amending Chapter 16-400 entitled Vacant and Surplus Properties, Chapter 16-500 entitled Councilmanic District Development Program, and Chapter 16-700 entitled Philadelphia Land Bank, in order to establish uniform procedures for the disposition of property by the city and city-related agencies to whom the city conveys property, and to amend the provisions governing the land bank, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you. Is there anyone here for the administration who wish to testify on Bill number 190606? Good morning.
Good morning.
Madam Director, you please state your name for the record, and you may proceed with your testimony.
Good morning. My name is Ann Fadulin. I'm Director of Planning and Development. Good morning, Chairman Heenan and members of the Committee on Public Property and Public Works. My name is Ann Fadulin, and I'm the Director of Planning and Development for the City of Philadelphia. I'm here today to provide testimony on Bill number 190606, which seeks to revamp the city's vacant property disposition policies. The administration is supportive of the intent behind this legislation. This is a bold and substantial proposal, and while many details remain to be ironed out, we look forward to continuing to work with City Council to produce an open and transparent process for the disposition of publicly owned properties. We welcome the opportunity to advance our efforts to ensure, thank you, Philadelphia has an efficient and transparent disposition process. Going forward, we will continue to work closely with our partners on City Council to produce amendments that reflect our priorities. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And just quickly, Ms. Fadul, I know you say in the written testimony here, details remain to be ironed out and all. And I understand this is not an easy issue, and it's something as a councilman at large I don't deal with directly, but I know that it's been an important issue. I guess I'm just trying to figure out, the bill was introduced on June 20th. I know there was a lot of work done before that, even before the bill was introduced. I guess I'm trying to figure out why it's not finalized by now. I mean, why haven't
It's
you?
complicated. So we've met, I want to say we probably met 5 or 6 times, the administration with council staff. Since the bill has been introduced, this is 13 pages of legislation. It's pretty sweeping. Like we said, it's bold, and there's a lot of details to be ironed out. Essentially, the bill is taking a stab at properties, some of which are governed by city law around city-owned properties, state law with the land bank enabling legislation, and state law with the urban redevelopment law, and trying to meld all those together and make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed based on the different requirements across those. There's a lot of detail there, and we're just ironing that out. I also think there's some issues with codifying pieces of the disposition process when what happens on a piece of ground is so disparate. So, for example, we have anything happening on properties from a side yard to multi-year, tens of millions of dollars development. And to try to say those are all going to follow the exact same process with this timeline, it's complicated. And so I think those are the things that we're working on. I think with the big picture items, we do have agreement. We are in agreement with the intent, but working through these details, it takes some time. And I don't think that either side has been unwilling to meet or unwilling to roll up their sleeves. It's just every time we meet, we make some progress, but there's also some other things that are identified that we still need to dot some i's and cross some t's.
Since you say most of the major stuff has been finalized, do you think it's reasonable to assume that council passes this bill out of committee today, that it can be passed in the normal process after that?
I'm not
The
sure.
time frame that,
So the normal process, I guess I need to clarify for
well,
me what
within
the
2
normal
meetings.
process is.
Within 2 meetings of
I think we're working towards that. I can't, I'm not able to commit to that right now, but I know that we do have some additional meetings set up this week. And we're gonna, we are all committed to meeting on a regular basis until we get this done. I think we all want to get this done.
Okay, and I know you...
But again, this is a big deal, and we want to
Right.
make
No,
sure
we
we
know.
get it right.
No, exactly, but by the same token, it has been many months, so, I mean,
I would
there
say.
seems to be a
yeah.
time where you have to kind of get, say,
Well,
this is
I mean, it
right?
was introduced June 21st.
But wasn't
and
there a
we
lot of
met-
work that, but wait a minute, in all fairness, wasn't there a lot of, and again, this isn't
There
my
was a lot of
ballgame
work
here.
going into this, but I will say this, a lot of the work that was done, that went into this didn't translate.
It's what, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So we had a lot of work that went in, and then what was put into the legislation did not fully reflect the work that had been done prior. It picked up pieces here and there, but again, I think when you're trying to take from sort of different sources and meld them together, it's just some of the details fell out. And so those are the things that we've been working through.
So you say you work with partners on council to produce additional amendments, is that still your plan?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair recognizes Councilman Squillen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Ms. Vadul, and I know this is a complicated process as we deal with the land sales. Do you know in this process that we will be able to swap properties that are,
So that isn't addressed in this legislation right now, so that's, I think, one of the things that we started to talk, that we were talking about when we had our meeting yesterday afternoon about this, that we've got to look into further.
because, I mean, we really hit I guess, a conundrum of issues when we have areas we're trying to save for the betterment of the community or to save a garden, and we have a private property in the middle of a garden, and therefore, if we could then swap a property out to the end of the garden and then keep the garden whole, things like that, we sort of prevent ourselves from doing that, and we're not able to do it, or it's so complicated that nobody's willing to do it, and we end up losing the better good for the community out of that. So, I mean, I think it's something that we need to do to be able to have that option available, and there could be regulations in place and things to protect, bad things from happening, but it's something that we should have that tool in our chest to be able to do to help communities to be able to understand that there is a process to keep these gardens and open spaces available to them while development's happening. Because if not, we end up getting cut in the middle and then losing all of it. And it's a detriment to the community as a whole. And I know we're trying to protect ourselves sometimes from ourselves by having these policies in place, but there's got to be a way that we can trust the people in the community, in our departments, and in our legislature to understand if we're trying to fight what's best for the community, to have that ability to do that. And without it, makes it and it's very frustrating for some of our community members, even the NGT, Neighborhood Garden Trust, and some other folks that are really inspirational to the community and trying to hold on to some of these open spaces in our more developing communities. And without that option, I think we would be missing opportunity if we don't add that into this legislation.
Yeah, well, and I think that's exactly what we're working on, is how do you make sure that the process is as clear, fair, and transparent as possible, but also allows flexibility to make sure you end up with the best result.
Okay, well, thank you, and hopefully we'll continue to do this and get it passed so that we can
Yep.
make these properties move a little quicker and easier. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Maria Corona Sanchez.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, I just want to say that in this process, we really have moved really a long road ahead around this reform process. From the creation of Ann Fadulin's position by Council President Clark, to the consolidation of land, to the consolidation of the housing alphabet soup. I think the administration has moved towards this. I think conceptually, we have all of the major agreements. Like any piece of legislation, how the administration operationalizes, they have a lot of discretion around some of the issues that we talked about. But I think we're very, very clear that that we need the strategic plan. We need to get back to people on a timely basis. We need a simple way of reviewing all of this stuff, which this piece of legislation does. It really outlines mandatory deed restrictions with the ability of the administration to really revert title when we have problems. And nothing in this legislation prohibits the administration from some of the areas of concern. And I appreciate all the work that has gone into all of this. As someone who's worked with this for many, many years, and this committee and Chairman Heenan and others know that we've really been trying to get this right. We can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. I think creating a transparent process and being able to move these properties. There's 40,000 vacant properties and they keep accumulating. We all agree that the level of disposition that we've done in the last few years is not enough, and that we need to build that capacity. But we also need to make sure that we're not what I say overthinking this. We can be targeted and transparent. They're not conflicting terms. And I think that's what we're trying to get here. So I feel very confident that the intent and the desire both by the administration and council is there, and we'll work through some of the remaining issues. And I ask this committee to help us move this along so that we can get this right and we can repurpose and get back onto the tax rolls these 40,000 vacant properties that right now, as we read on Friday, will continue to be exploited through sheriff sales speculation that we see all over the city that has really, really concerned neighborhoods and has really sometimes worked against the work of our community development corporations who've really gone into neighborhoods before anybody else went in there and began to repurpose and create markets. And I think we could be fair to long-term residents as well as provide some predictability for development in the future. So I look forward to working again with Council President Clark, who's the author of this legislation, and the team, and feel confident that we will get this done. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Just a few quick questions. So how does the new disposition policy here, or this legislation, there's a redevelopment agreement? Are there redevelopment agreements
So
tied
there
to?
would be I think we've called it a purchase development agreement. Again, this is sort of where it gets a little bit complicated. So redevelopment agreement is something that is required by state urban development, redevelopment law. So anything comes out that's in the redevelopment authority inventory requires a redevelopment agreement. But what we're talking about is having as close to a uniform agreement across all property ownership entities. So whether it's a city property, a land bank property, or a redevelopment authority property, having a very similar agreement. So that the similar protections would be in each of the agreements.
Okay, so there is a purchase agreement for redevelopment, right?
Yes.
That's required by state law, right? Covered under?
So
How does it fit into the strategic plan that you're outlining in this
So just the urban
in the
redevelopment
policy.
law requires a redevelopment agreement for for redevelopment authority-owned properties, right?
Right.
Based on our local land bank and land bank enabling legislation at the state, we have a purchase development agreement for land bank ones that very closely resembles our redevelopment agreement. Currently, city-owned property that came out from the Vacant Property Review Committee did not have that type of agreement. There has been an MOU entered into between the city and the land bank to provide a similar purchase development agreement as the land bank, but part of what we're dealing with in this legislation is trying to create a uniform agreement that incorporates what's required by city law, what's required by state land bank law, and also what's required by state redevelopment law. We may not get exactly there, but we're trying to get as close of alignment as possible so that certain protections are in place regardless of what is the land holding entity.
Gotcha. All right.
You got that?
right.
And that's just
Now-
one
now-
component of this
now-
legislation.
Now that being said, I actually know what you're talking about, all right? But I want you to talk about it, right? So people understand how comprehensive this is and how much work is going into it over the years and how land bank has evolved, how the PRA has evolved, all right, in its processes. So how does this new disposition or legislation streamline the process and transparency and get to market quicker with more accountability?
Right, so I think the key components is one, we're trying to create a uniform agreement. We're trying to create a uniform process, so it doesn't matter what the land holding entity is, the process is the same. We're trying to tie timeframes to the process, and then also we're trying, for those that we make it clear what can be gone out as a competitive sale, what would qualify for a non-competitive sale, and in the case of a competitive sale, what would be the criteria that would be evaluated when those competitive sale proposals come in.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions on bill number for Director for bill number 190606? That being said, thank you for your testimony. Clerk, would you please read
Thank you.
or ask our next three people who are due to testify to come up in one panel, please?
Beth McConnell, Jacob Markovitz, and Will Gonzalez.
Ms. McConnell, you may state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony, and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairperson Heenan, Vice Chair Greenlee, and other members of the committee. My name is Beth McConnell. I'm the Policy Director with the Philadelphia Association of Community Development Corporations, PACDC, here to testify on Bill number 190606. I want to start by thanking council members, Sanchez, I'll get it right eventually, and the council president for sitting down with us and their staff to walk through the legislation and hearing our recommendations and addressing our questions, so we do appreciate that. This bill will make several important changes to the way that Philadelphia manages vacant surplus property. First, it would eliminate the Vacant Property Review Committee, VPRC. PACDC has advocated for eliminating the VPRC during the debates over the creation of the land bank back in 2013. We hold a seat on the VPRC, and as such, we've seen firsthand the important work that it has done in overseeing the process of disposing public property. But the goal of the land bank was and still is to streamline the process and create transparency and accountability. So by eliminating the VPRC and folding its functions into the land bank, Philadelphia moves one step closer to having one landholding agency with an open, transparent process, with one set of policies and procedures and one path to disposition. City Council can take another step by working with the administration to transfer all remaining vacant surplus property into the land bank, including the inventory that's still held by the Office of Public Property and the Redevelopment Authority. PACDC is also pleased to see some of the provisions in the bill that establish a scoring criteria for properties subject to competitive bid. These criteria highly value economic opportunity and inclusion, as well as social impact, while de-emphasizing purchase price. We do support policies that advance long-term equitable development goals over short-term financial gain. Now, scoring criteria for competitive bids already exists. However, this bill makes that criteria publicly known in ordinance for the first time. But it will be important for the definitions of the scoring criteria to be more fully developed as part of the land bank disposition policies. So there's uniform agreement, for example, on what economic opportunity and inclusion means or what public purpose means. We also do request that the bill be amended slightly just to ensure that the scoring criteria results are disclosed to the applicants when they get either an approval or a denial letter, creating some more transparency about how that criteria is being applied. For disposition decisions without advertised bids, PACDC also requested that the bill be amended to define affordable housing as intended for properties where at least 51% of the rental units are designated to households below 80% area median income, and for sale units below 120% AMI. While we strongly support prioritization of land for affordable homes that serve far lower income populations, this would give the land bank flexibility to support development of mixed income rental properties, as well as mixed income housing developments under that program, and workforce housing as well. The legislation also allows the land bank or the landholding agencies to discount the sale price for nominal or less than fair market value for a number of reasons. While we strongly support this concept, some of those categories are not defined, such as economic opportunity, design and sustainability. So we really hope to see in the land bank disposition policies that more of that detail is fleshed out so it's clear. And we're also very pleased to see in the amendment that's been submitted today requiring reporting of discounts that are applied in the land bank's annual performance report. We also recommend that include not just that the discount was offered, but the justification for the discount. Finally, the bill also could require that the amount that the land bank pay the city of Philadelphia to acquire vacant tax delinquent parcels at sheriff's sale, it limits the price to the lesser of the assessed value where the real estate tax is due. Right now, there's an MOU between the land bank and multiple city agencies and the school district that requires the land bank to pay all municipal liens and back taxes to acquire property. So it basically requires general fund allocations so that the city of Philadelphia can pay the city of Philadelphia. While this bill would not eliminate that completely, at least will allow the land bank to stretch its limited acquisition dollars a bit further. In closing, PACDC was a strong advocate for creating the land bank along with our allies and partners that care deeply about turning vacant property into opportunities for green space and gardens, market rate housing and commercial development, as well as affordable housing and community space. Land bank's come a long way since 2013. This bill will move us a few steps further, and we look forward to continuing to work with Council and the administration as the strategic plan is finalized and the acquisition and disposition policies are updated in the coming months. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you for your testimony. You may state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony. Thank you.
Buenos dias, good morning. Thank you very much for organizing this public hearing on such an important topic and for inviting us to testify before you today. My name is Will Gonzalez. I'm the Executive Director of SEBA, or Coalition of Latino Community-Based Organizations in Philadelphia. SEBA supports what Beth McConnell of PACDC just testified. SEBA is an active member of PACDC. We welcome the streamlining of the process of disposing of vacant lots and public property that this legislation seeks to accomplish by eliminating the VPRC and strengthening the Philadelphia Land Bank. We are concerned, however, with the provisions in this legislation aiming to establish a scoring system to help determine how best to move property out of the Philadelphia Land Bank into the hands of the public. There are good sounding terms like public purpose, social impact, and economic opportunity and inclusion. However, there are no firm definitions for the terms in this legislation. We understand that the land bank is under the executive branch of government and that sometimes there may be limits, legal and political, to what the legislative branch can do in meddling in the land bank's policies and procedures. so as to make them more supportive of affordable housing and other community uses. We respectfully request and urge you to do your utmost, starting with this legislation, to ensure that the land bank's policies and procedures maximize equitable development in the neighborhoods. Please define in the legislation the terms public purpose, social impact, economic opportunity, and inclusion. Please also ensure that this legislation fosters transparency in the process of disposing of city lots and properties. This means that the public must see the results of all scoring decisions which emanate from this legislation's implementation. This is basic due process. Otherwise, what is being created here is a secretive process that can lend itself to misuse in the wrong hands. On paper, the land bank looks good. This legislation looks good. However, in practice, the land bank has yet to hit its stride, and this legislation, without additional definitions and safeguards of transparency and due process, may not accomplish what it seeks to do no more than to get rid of one layer of bureaucracy, the VPRC. I need to make one more point about equity and inclusion regarding the land bank, especially as this legislation defers to it definitions of public purpose, social impact, economic opportunity, and inclusion. Sad to say that the land bank has no Latino on its board of directors. Yes, its executive director is Latino. However, the policymaking power of the land bank rests on its board of directors. We respectfully request that the City Council do what it can to ensure that a Latinx person is on the Philadelphia Land Bank Board. Thank you for your attention. We look forward to continuing to work with you to ensure equitable development in Philadelphia. Gracias.
Thank you for your testimony. You state your name for the record, and you may proceed. With your
Good morning, Jacob Markovitz, Chairman Heenan, and members of the Committee on Public Property and Public Works. My name is Jacob Markovitz. I'm a realtor in the city of Philadelphia, and I'm vice president of the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors. With over 3,000 hardworking members throughout the region, GPAR has served as the voice of real estate in Philadelphia since 1908. We have a proven track record of advocating for policies that protect the rights of private property owners and benefit the entire city, not just our realtor community. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today regarding the bill. Councilwoman Sanchez, on behalf of Council President Clark, introduced the bill, and it seems to amend the process of disposition of public property owned by the city of Philadelphia. GPAR supports the bill. We believe the current process in place for the disposition of public property is both challenging and ineffective. The bill is the right step towards solving the disposition process and providing a fair chance to anyone who would like to be competitively bid for a property owned by the city of Philadelphia. The bill also recognizes the issue of blight in the city of Philadelphia, includes such properties in the disposition process. Furthermore, we appreciate the bill's emphasis on developing affordable housing, low-income housing, and community gardens. We would like to thank Councilwoman Sanchez and her staff for working with us on specific concerns we had in relation to the bill. We look forward to working with the council to make the process work better and with more transparency. We respectfully request that council continue to include GPAR in any further stakeholder discussions. Once again, we support the bill. Thank you for the consideration expressed by me and GPAR.
Well, thank you all for your testimony and your submitted testimony on record. Anyone have any questions on the committee? We appreciate your time today. Clerk, would you please read our last two speakers to come up and testify?
Anthony Fullard and Rick Young.
Morning.
Council members,
State your name for the record, and you may proceed with your testimony.
Rick Young, Westview Development Partners. I'm here to support the bill 190606. I spoke a number of times on the playing field being level for urban developers or developers of color or indigenous to the neighborhood. I think that's something that has been missing for some time. I think that's really important where, you know, the emphasis goes on community impact and social impact. Someone like myself who created a template for neighborhood special service districts who hired close to 100 people and do entrepreneurial programs in elementary schools and give kids a safe place to go on Christmas, Halloween, and Easter. I think, something that, you don't get credit for, but it's good to know that now, on a scale of 1 to 100, those are taken in consideration when in terms of development. Someone like myself who comes from a community like Mantua, who the city has become a destination, and a place like Mantua has become a destination for developers since it's central to the zoo, the art museum, and Drexel University. I think there's an onslaught of developers where the emphasis on the past has been on price and on money, and it kind of outprices, it makes it no different than the sheriff's sale when you go to try to bid on a property and the city takes it to the highest bidder. So I support this bill and having conversations with Councilwoman Sanchez and President Clark on, how do we make it fair or make the playing field fair for developers of color or urban developers who come from who comes from this neighborhood, who knows the neighborhood from an internal perspective. I think, that's going to be something that's going to be very important down the line. So I support the bill, and thank you very much. And any questions, I'll be more than happy.
Thank you for your testimony. Mr. Fuller,
Oh, okay, sorry. Texas Survivor.
will you state your name for the record and then proceed with your testimony?
Yes, Anthony Fullard, President of West Politan Development Corporation. I am present today here to lend my support to Bill number 190606. And the reason for my support of the vacant and surplus properties, there is approximately 25,000 plus vacant properties in Philadelphia. I understand that the councilwoman has even said it's about 40,000. The Philadelphia Land Bank manages more than 5,000 plus properties for sale around the city. Most properties are vacant land and buildings in need of repair. I also pulled up this thing, I think it was done by eCouncil. Households near vacant properties lose wealth through reduced property value. In 2010, eCouncil study found that the blighting efforts of the vacant parcels reduced the value of nearby properties by 6.5% citywide and as high as 20% in particular neighborhoods. In dollar figures, this equates to an average of $8,000 decrease in the property values per household, totally roughly $3.6 billion in lost household wealth. These figures do not even include the lost revenues associated with the foregoing opportunities for new development projects associated with job growth, new residents who are wage earners, et cetera. And then, largely I support this bill for a number of items that are in this bill, is that large number of properties are vacant for a very long time. Vacant properties are in poor physical condition and impossible to live in. Certain properties have been declared by the city of Philadelphia unfit to live in. Owners of unfit properties live in and are properties live-ins are delinquent in real estate taxes, water, sewer liens. Properties are in their most present state, and conditions have become blight and a nuisance, and have been a haven for criminal activities in our local neighborhoods. Non-payment of taxes, obligations by the owners. There needs to be a quick vetting process that the owner may be able to do a payment plan. There needs to be a quick process for owners' desire to donate properties to the city. To hold owners such properties would be required to be held into a trust until they can be rehabbed. So, those are the certain points that I read in this bill that I think that are very important for us to move through all of these vacant properties, all of these vacant lots that is really plaguing our city. But also, city council members, I am also in support of the the item that is in this bill, within 180 days of close of bidding, the agency shall evaluate bidders for selections based upon the following weight criteria: 30% for economic opportunities and inclusion, 20% for public purpose, social impact, 25% for development team experience. I like the point system. So then this opens it up for a number of potential developers that have been vetted that can do a good development job, which our city needs. Now, I specifically, such as Rick, I concentrate on areas that are plagued by a lot of blight and all of that we see each and every day, and like to bring development and like to bring revitalization to these neighborhoods. This bill will help developers such as me to be able to continue on that mission. So again, as I said, I am in 100% of bill number 190606. If you have any questions, please let us know.
Thank you for your testimony. That will be it. We appreciate you coming in and testifying with us here today. Anyone else here wishes to testify on any of the bills just read in public property, public works? Good morning. You may state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony and the bill number that you are speaking on.
Patricia DiCarlo. And here are, you usually like copies. See. Okay. Good morning. Thank you for the hearing. My name is Patricia DiCarlo. I'm testifying today as a long-term resident of Mi Barrio, the North Square neighborhood, and as the interim executive director of North Square Community Alliance, a nonprofit, community-based advocacy and development organization. As a resident, I have seen firsthand the impact of the for-profit development in the neighborhood, particularly after its designation as an opportunity zone. Every day, I hear the concerns of residents losing their backyards they've maintained for 20, 30, 40 years to sheriff sales without any prior notice, or having their homes damaged by developers, contractors who do not respect or care about the impact of their projects on family properties. This proposed legislation for procedures to be followed on acquisition of city property is one of the keys to planning for future development of our neighborhoods and controlling the abuse and short and long-term negative impact on our neighborhoods. The other key government procedures which impact our neighborhoods, which also need to get dealt with, are zoning and legislated financial burdens or benefits imposed on real estate. As I read the legislation, I was glad that the Vacant Property Review Committee was eliminated as a process for acquisition and disposition of city's properties, as at times it seemed lengthy and redundant. The proposed process, though, is concerning as it is vague in terms of the priorities identified by the city for the disposition of its properties. What does 30% of the weighted criteria for economic opportunity and inclusion mean? One might think it gives opportunity for low-income persons to receive training, get a job, be eligible for housing. But the word opportunity has become questionable. The opportunity zone was hailed as such, and so far, the only beneficiaries have been wealthy investors, developers avoiding payment of capital gain taxes by investing in poor neighborhoods and developing, quote, affordable workforce housing, which translated into current reality in our neighborhood means a one-bedroom apartment at a rent of $1,200 to $1,400 per month. That is not affordable in a neighborhood where the AMI is 17 to 20,000 per year. Do the math. But that is the AMI of our workforce, unless we are more specific as to the economic impact and inclusion and what that means and how it gets measured. Our poor neighborhoods, where families have struggled to improve and maintain mostly without city assistance, will be decimated, and they will become homeless. It's already happening. As people sell their properties to these developers, the folks who were renting from them can't find affordable housing in the neighborhood, and they have to leave. So expect an increase in homelessness due to all the development that's going on without any real restraint as to price. There's one glaring absence of prioritizing acquisition in this legislation. That is providing long-term residents with deeds to the properties they have maintained for decades without assistance or maintenance from the city. So I mean the folks from the Badlands who've been living there, taking care of abandoned, blighted property, both city-owned and privately owned, fencing, clearing it of trash, taking care of drug needles without any help from the city, and now that they are eligible under adverse possession, they don't have the money, they don't have the information, and they don't get the help from the city to get their deeds. They're legally entitled to the deeds. That should be part of your acquisition legislation. A simple, efficient process for those families to be able to acquire a deed to the property that they can prove they've maintained for all these years. These lots should have top priority for City Council to legislate a simple, expeditious process that provides deeded titles to the caretaker of these properties with no restriction on use. So not limited to for open space or gardens, liens of 30 years on the deed, etc. It should be open and available to expand their home to accommodate parents or their children, build a garage, or sell the property. Why should poor people be limited in the use of properties they have maintained for 30, 40 years? Why is it that only the well-to-do get the opportunity to even be more well-to-do? They can sell and they can make their money, but the poor people can't. So again, I ask that you address this in this legislation of acquisition and disposition. Let me tell you a quick story. So we have several residents who've been taking care of their lots for decades and decades and decades. So they go to court under adverse possession. They're being helped by a nonprofit who's helping with gardens and lots. They assign an attorney. The lady is an elder lady. She only speaks Spanish. So she goes ready to go to court. She pays for the court costs. She gets there, and the attorney says, oops, can't represent you. I have a conflict because U.S. Bank lien. And so they postpone the case. Then she gets assigned, 2 months later, another attorney who's doing it pro se. And so I spend the night explaining, translating for her. Several weeks later, months later, they have another court date. And again, oops, can't do it, conflict of interest. The judge dismisses the case. Why? Because she didn't have representation. So while I find attorneys to do this for people pro se, it really, really would be very useful if this legislation includes a process done by the city to take those properties and deed them, go through the court, you do the adverse possession, you do the city, they owe taxes, and you get the property and you pass on the deed to the people who've been taking care of those properties for 20, 30, 40 years. Without paying back taxes, because they paid the back taxes by taking care of the properties, they'll pay taxes forward. But it has to be included in this disposition property. Otherwise, we're not really taking care of the people who have suffered the most from the blight and the lack of maintenance. And I understand city didn't have the resources, but the city didn't maintain those neighborhoods. Those people did. Second concern, there's no clearly defined priority and percentage value for properties to be developed for the homeless and or low-income families. Using the city's AMI as the measurement for affordable housing assures the exclusion of families where the neighborhood AMI is 17,000 to 20,000 as opposed to the city at 40,000. So for example, that's the AMI in North Square. So you have these developers coming and saying they're going to do some affordable housing. Well, affordable, it's at $40,000. Nobody there makes $40,000. So what happens? They don't get to benefit from affordable housing. That's a problem. Third concern, there is no plan proposed for the identification and protection of the cultural footprint and heritage of the neighborhood. Philadelphia has a long history of how minority neighborhoods have been decimated through the process of gentrification, particularly when advanced and exacerbated by governmental incentives such as tax abatements, opportunity zones, and/or zoning density bonus. Legislate as part of the acquisition process that 30% of your priority is going to go impact on the neighborhood cultural economic footprint. Is it going to have a negative impact? If it does, you don't approve it. Mi barrio is being overwhelmed by buildings developments that are 5 and 8 stories high with 60 to 100 units, 10 parking spots, mostly one-bedroom apartments in what is basically a row-home, single-family neighborhood of 2 to 3-story homes. Family housing is not being provided, and the rental and the sale price of the same is way beyond the capacity of most families, as our AMI, again, in 4 out of our 5 census tracts is 17,000. But these are all touted as workforce housing, which is what you have prioritized here. Workforce housing pays $1,200 to $1,400 a month for a one-bedroom. You tell me whose workforce that is. It sure ain't our neighborhood. In summary, mi barrio is entitled to...
Excuse me, Mr. Carlo.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. We do have your written testimony. If you could summarize your comments on the bill itself, on bill number 190606, we'd appreciate that. And if you could summarize that for us so we can move on with our business, and then we'll make sure that this is submitted for the record.
Right. So in summary, take care of our poor neighborhoods. Please review your legislation to make sure that it's the poor that are mostly being protected. The other ones can have a chance, but take care of the ones that have been here all these years. Thank you.
Certainly agree.
And have a
Thank
great
you
day.
so much for testifying today. Is there anyone else here that wishes to testify on any of the bills that were heard in our public committee today? That being none, I want to remind that this committee is holding bill number 190602, 190560. This will conclude our public hearing, public property, and public works. We will now go to our public meeting. The chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee on an amendment to bill number 190606.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the adoption of the amendment to bill number 190606, which has been distributed to the members of the committee.
Second, it has been moved and properly second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill number 190606 is amended. Chair again recognizes Councilman Greenlee on motions for all bills in the public meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the following bills be reported out as committee with favorable recommendation, and that the rules of council be suspended to allow for first reading at our next session of council. If bill numbers 190130, 190712, 190707, 190714, and 190606 as amended.
It has been moved and properly second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Bill numbers 190606 6 as amended, Bill number 190130, 190602, 190712, 190707, 190714.
You said 602, no, that's not.
Okay, that's 190606. I apologize, as amended. And the bills just read will be reported out of the committee with a favorable recommendation with the suspension of the rules to allow the first reading of said bills at our next council session. This will conclude our public meeting. Thank you so much.